All right, we have quorum. Welcome one and all to this future Melbourne Committee meeting. I declare this meeting open at 5:30 p.m. and I welcome councillors, management and members of the public attending tonight's meeting, both in person and virtually. I note that Councillor Dr. Owen Guest is joining this meeting virtually via Zoom, and we can see you on the big screen here at Town Hall. Councillor Guest. We're meeting on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country, and I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we govern, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin, and pay respect to their elders, past and present. We acknowledge and honour the unbroken spiritual, cultural and political connection they have maintained to this unique place for more than 2,000 generations. This meeting is being streamed live and the recording will be published on Council's website by close of business tomorrow. The unconfirmed minutes of this meeting will also be available from the Council's website as soon as practicable. I request that all mobile phones be turned off or to silent for the duration of the meeting. Apologies have been received from Councillor Philip Leilu and Councillor Kevin Louis. Agenda item 2, disclosure of conflicts of interest. If a councillor has a conflict as defined in the Local Government Act in relation to a matter to be considered by committee, please disclose the type and nature of your interest prior to consideration of that item. Moving on to agenda item 3, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. I call on a councillor to move a motion adopting the minutes of open meeting number 25 held on the 14th of April 2026. It's on the screen. Thank you, Councillor Gladys Liu as a mover, and thank you, Councillor David Griffiths, for seconding. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. I declare that carried unanimously. We move on to agenda item 4, matters arising from the minutes of the previous meeting. I ask councillors whether there are any matters in those minutes they wish to call out. No. We move on to submissions and correspondence. The following submissions have been received in accordance with Council's governance rules. In relation to agenda item 6.1, 1 to 29 Queensbridge Street, Southbank, we have a request to speak from Billy Rabakis at Urbis, Simon Houseseger at Cox, and Vince Giuliano from PDG. We have items of correspondence in relation to that agenda item from Billy Rabakis, again, Simon and Vince, as well as Tony Penner from the Southbank Residents Association. In relation to agenda item 6.2, City Road Northern Undercroft design update, we have an item of correspondence from Tony Penner, Southbank Residents Association, on that item. In relation to agenda item 6.3, Experience Melbourne 2028, 6-month progress report, we have a request to speak and an item of correspondence from Chris Thrum. I remind submitters that you'll be invited to address the committee at the time of the relevant agenda item. All right, we move on to agenda item 5, public questions. A 15-minute period has been set aside at the beginning and end of this meeting for members of the public to ask questions. Members of the public may either submit public questions in writing or register to ask a question in person or live via audio link. Questions should not be greater than 90 seconds in duration. As at 10 a.m. today, we had no public questions which had been received, so I will therefore move straight to people who are here and in attendance. If there's anyone who wishes to ask a public question, you are invited to do so. Yes, please make your way to the lectern. Introduce yourself.
Yes, John O'Brien. Previous visitor to here, lot 23 at 131 Lonsdale Street, Melbourne. My first item is about Jones Lane, which is a lane that runs parallel with Exhibition Street. It runs north-south between Lonsdale and Little Lonsdale.
Sorry, John, what was the name of the lane?
Jones,
Jones Lane.
J-O-N-E-S, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's near 140 Burke and 150 Lonsdale, 140 and 150 Lonsdale. Yes. I move down that lane every day and I'm concerned about the number of cigarette butts that are extinguished onto the road asphalt each day. This area is a favourite spot for the Wesley workers because Wesley Place is right beside it and it has an exit door out onto the laneway. The actual people that control Wesley House have been notified over 12 months ago and nothing's been done. It's a real eyesore and it's more than 40 or 50 cigarette butts every day at that spot. The second item is Bryan Lane. I've just come through that area. It's parallel to Russell Street, which I've spoken about earlier. There's broken bottles, paper, graffiti and excrement. Again, I'd like it to be cleaned on a regular basis, say Tuesday and Thursday, instead of every so often somebody comes along when someone makes a loud noise. Finally, I'd like to thank the councillors and staff, firstly for 132 to 138 Little Burke Street for the clean-up that's half done, then the passing of the independent review for the Victoria Market, and finally I'd like to thank those who did the voiceovers for the reindeers at the Victoria Market over the Christmas period. There must be 2 or 3 of you there that'd like to put your hand up.
Thank you, John. That's a comprehensive list of questions and thank yous. We might begin with Jones Lane, and I'm not sure if Councillor Camillo wants to comment on that, or maybe we'll start with you, Rick, if there's anything you wish to comment about the frequency of cleaning cycles there and reflect on what we have heard.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for the question. We'll certainly take the request on board and I will pass on to the team to review the frequency based on current cleaning patterns and we'll get back to you with an outcome for that.
What I would like you to do is to probably get one of those chrome cigarette containers to put on the wall of either at 140 Burke Street on the probably the eastern side because it runs north-south. Yes, thank you. That'll solve the problem. And whether you make Wesley Place because it's 100% occupied more or less as a 6-star neighbours building.
Gotcha. John, this is not really the time for a lengthy conversation on this topic,
right.
but you've made some really good points. Grab a seat and you can always hang around later on and maybe catch
that's it. No, Bryan Lane is the only thing he's got to
Councillor Camillo, did you want to add anything?
John, very quick. I'm very happy to have a meeting with you. Going there, I usually walk in that area and I'll constantly look at graffiti in the Telstra building and reporting. Someone's got to give you my card now, has a QR code behind the card until we meet. Just keeping use that QR code to report any of the issues in there. And I'm more than happy to receive the emails from the time being until we're meeting.
Yeah.
And sorry about that you experienced that. And we
regular
need to
timetable is not just when it happens, it's there all the time. It's the other way where you need to do it on a Tuesday and Thursday, so it's actually done before the weekend and after.
But John, it's very important too, if the locals always been reporting via the QR code, I got to be giving my card for you.
All right, thank you for that, Councillor Camillo. Thank you, John. Are there any other questions from members of the public who are here? In that case, we'll move on to reports from management, agenda item 6, and I'm going to call on Deputy Lord Mayor Rashina Campbell to assume the role of Chair of the meeting in relation to reports where Council exercises its responsibility under the Planning and Environment Act.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. There is one report from management under this section of the meeting, agenda item 6.1, TPMR 2025-13, 1 to 29 Queensbridge Street in Southbank. I am going to ask for a presentation on this item and I'm going to call on Nick McLennan, the Acting Head of Statutory Planning, to make a brief presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillors. Before you this evening is a ministerial referral to the City of Melbourne at 1 to 29 Queensbridge Street, Southbank. Next slide, please. The subject site is made up of 4 individual properties and has a total area of 5,039 square metres. Notably, 1 to 7 Queensbridge Street is the Queensbridge Hotel, which is a significant graded building pursuant to Council's Heritage Places inventory. The site fronts Queensbridge Street and has a rear aspect to Freshwater Place. Next slide, please. Here you can see an aerial view of the subject site. Of note, the adjoining buildings being the 63-storey Freshwater Place residential tower to the north, 72-storey Prima Pearl Tower to the south, and 25-storey 28 Freshwater Place development. As can be seen, the site has adjacency to Queensbridge Square and the Yarra River, and Crown sits to the west across Queensbridge Street. Next slide, please. The proposal seeks for the partial demolition of the Queensbridge Hotel, full demolition of the remaining buildings on the site, and the construction of a mixed-use tower on the land. On your screen is the ground floor plan highlighting the range of uses proposed, as well as the proposed arcade which connects through to Freshwater Place. As can be seen, a range of uses are proposed to activate the street edge and laneway, including food and beverage, retail, and access to the hotel, and residents with car parking and loading access to the south along Queensbridge Street. Next slide. This slide provides a breakdown of the proposed uses within the tower, notably office and hotel within the podium, and the residential within the tower. 637 dwellings are proposed, including 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom apartments, as well as 5 penthouses. Next slide, please. The application has been on a journey since it was lodged. On the screen now is the originally submitted proposal, which was partly informed by a review of the Office of the Victorian Government Architect, as well as Council and DTP. Next slide. The current proposal, as shown here, highlights the 10-storey podium and retained Queensbridge Hotel, with built form behind, as well as the proposed interface with Queensbridge Street. As can be seen, the proposal provides a strong ground plane response to the site. This slide here, thanks for jumping forward, is the render of the proposed tower as currently proposed and viewed across the Yarra facing Queensbridge Street. Thank you. Oh, back to front, sorry.
Did you want to just make the point again, Nick? I think the wrong slide might have been up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, if we go back to the... one forward. Forward. Yeah, that's right. Next one, please. There we go. So, sorry, I was speaking to this point. This is the current proposal as is. It shows the podium and the relationship between the podium and the retained Queensbridge Hotel, as well as the grounding to the site and the active uses. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors might have questions, but I might kick off if that's all right. We've received a submission from Tony Penner on behalf of the South Bank Resident Association that raises a number of issues, and I was hoping to get management's advice on them, dealing just with a few in turn. The first is in relation to wind impacts and the lack of wind tunnel assessment.
Yes, so conditions on the proposed recommendation from management will address wind issues should a permit be issued.
Thank you. And then in relation to loss of daylight and shadowing, and particularly noting that there is a management condition in respect of the facade and the built form, in light of that, do you think that will sufficiently alleviate Mr Penner's concerns?
Yes, Stanley, I do think so. Daylight and overshadowing have been assessed and have deemed to be within the expectations of a high-density central city location, and the condition in regard to the tower refinement will also assist with that.
Thank you. And then Mr Penner notes that the proposal includes 518 car spaces, but no mention of EV charging, which he describes as a significant omission. I'm interested in management's response to that.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. That will be addressed through the ESD conditions as well as the parking management conditions.
Thank you. And then in relation to the visual appeal of the design, Mr Penner notes, I think we'd all agree this is an incredibly prominent site, potentially a very significant feature of the visual landscape, he says, but he raises some concerns about the proposal. I'm interested in management's view on that submission.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. The management's recommendation is to, and I sort of talk you through the slides and the design evolution of this project. We believe that further modulation and tapering of the the tower itself would assist in breaking up the tower form. So we agree that there can be further work done, and we've formulated conditions to that effect.
Thank you. And then the final thing I wanted to seek your advice on is the traffic impact. Mr. Penner submits that it may be necessary not to permit right turn exits from properties that exiting traffic that wishes to go north may first need to turn left into Queensbridge Street and then move into a U-turn lane. He raises the concern that given the number of intersection points, if traffic is not carefully managed, this will become a major congestion point for passing traffic and trams. I'm interested in management's view on that finally.
Yes, so those matters, Deputy Lord Mayor, are being worked through with the department, along with Transport for Victoria. The applicants may be able to speak to that a little more, but Council is satisfied that those impacts can be appropriately managed through conditions.
Thank you. And then in management's report, management's position is that it does not object subject to some key matters, one of which is the public benefit, and management's position is that should be put into the public realm instead of office and affordable housing. Could you speak further to management's advice as to why that is the appropriate public benefit for this site?
Yes. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yes, look, management's position on this matter has been consistent throughout the proposal. There are a few different aspects to the proposed benefits being provided to obtain the uplift required. Management's position on this is that affordable housing monetary contribution is not supported and office is no longer supported as a public benefit. What we suggest is, and what we believe is a more appropriate outcome for this site, is to redirect those public benefits into Queensbridge Square, which we think will deliver a great public output for the community.
Thank you. That concludes my questions. I'm just turning to my councillor colleagues to see if they have any matters they want to raise. Yes, Lord Mayor.
Very quickly, and this might get picked up in the presentations to come, but just looking at the Queensbridge Street frontage there, it looks excellent to see all that activation along the street. That's what we like to see. If I follow the footpath around past the Queensbridge Hotel towards Freshwater Place, it looks like the current garden bed that's there, which sort of blocks you from following the desire line towards Freshwater Place, is removed, and there's a clear passage there. Is that just an artist's impression, or is that what we would hope to happen under the design?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I think that's just an artist's impression. That would be something to...
Right, okay. Well, that'll be a discussion for another day, but it'd be good if people could follow the desire line and get that continuous walk through there.
And we'd submit that hopefully that might be something that could be looked into through the public benefit being transferred to the square.
Yep. And then just in terms of, if we could just get back to the slides with the sort of pre-design panel review and post-design panel review. So I think that's the original proposal. And then the next slide is post-design panel review. So, ordinarily when we're looking for kind of good design, we look for detail in the facade and we look for depth and material articulation, and a facade that sort of breaks down bulk and improves the way the scale of the building presents to the street. If I sort of look between those two designs, which one do you think has more articulation in the facade?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Personally, if you want to flick back to the other one, I think that the previous proposal provides more articulation, and that's why the management's recommendation is for this to be further reviewed and potentially responded to prior to a decision being made.
All right.
Thank you.
TLM.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Did any other councillors have any questions of Nick? No? All right. Thank you very much, Nick. We now have a number of submitters. I first call on Billy Rebecas from Urbis, who's requested the opportunity to address this committee. Billy, if I could ask you to make your way to the lectern, and I know that you don't need reminding, but please speak for no more than 3 minutes. Would you prefer for Vince to go first? Very happy for that to happen. In that case, Vince Giuliani from PDG. It's great to have you here in Town Hall. Just a reminder to speak for no more than 3 minutes.
It looks like a lot of articulation on that slide.
It does.
So good evening, Lord Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin. Sorry, can I have the other slide, the one that says... Yeah, that one. Yeah, I'd like to begin by thanking Council and the planning team for the collaboration and constructive engagement you've provided to date. It's been greatly appreciated and it's been instrumental in getting us to this point. Really, it's a privilege to present number 1 Queensbridge, one of the most significant, long-awaited development sites in Melbourne. After years of dormancy, this is no longer a concept, it is a project well and truly underway. With demolition completed by August, our display suite under construction, we're also receiving a large number of inquiries and registrations from owner-occupiers, reinforcing the demand and confidence in this project. What gives us conviction is not just the site, but our 40-year track record developing in this great city, including Prima Tower next door, delivered ahead of its time. Prima remains one of the most sought-after residential buildings in South Bank. Our ambition now is to go further and set a new benchmark for Melbourne in architectural quality, sustainability, amenity and livability. Number 1 Queensbridge will deliver far more than exceptional residences. It will introduce to Australia one of the world's leading hotel brands, including its global celebrated food and beverage offering, further elevating Melbourne's international profile. Equally important is the broader public benefit this project delivers, and it completes a precinct, strengthening links to Freshwater Place, revitalising the Queensbridge Hotel, and renewing Queensbridge Square. Our significant contribution to the public realm creates lasting value for residents, workers, and visitors alike. We also bring a long history of working with the City of Melbourne, including Boyd Village and the Queen Victoria Market Precinct. The same partnership underpins our commitment here. This challenging project...
Still got another minute, Vince.
Okay, this challenging project is in a complex economic environment, but it's exactly the kind of investment that keeps Melbourne moving forward. It supports jobs, confidence, and the evolution of our city as a global leader. We are ready, the site is active, the vision is clear, and we now seek support of the authorities to deliver not just another development, but the best mixed-use development in the world's best city, Melbourne. Thank you, and I'll hand over to Billy from Urbis, who will take you through the design in more detail.
Just before you take your seat, Vince, I think I'll just ask you to pause for 1 second in case there are some questions for you. So we hear you loud and clear about your confidence in Melbourne, which is obviously very welcome. But you've now had the benefit of management's recommendation on this proposal, and I just wanted to test with you a few elements of that. The first is in relation to the public benefit. You've heard management's recommendation that should not be directed to office or an affordable housing contribution, but entirely to the public realm, public space. What would be the applicant's position on that?
Look, we're happy to do as much as we can. I would like to have our head office here. So I do actually want an office here for our company because we really believe in what we're doing and we really believe in the location. So it's not just a way of reducing our contribution. And in terms of the public housing, I mean, I'm happy to see if we can work together and see how we can direct that to the Queensbridge Square and really get rid of the wall that the Lord Mayor was talking about. I think that's a really good thing. And we've discussed all this with the adjoining owners, and everyone seems very excited about the proposed plans of what could make this a much better outcome than what currently exists.
Thank you. Yeah. And management's report contains obviously a series of conditions, some of which are directed to the built form and further refinement of that. What is the applicant's position in relation to that condition?
We honestly believe that what we have to date is the best that it's ever been. If you look at one angle and one render, you can form a view, but you need to look at the development in its totality. And where we've gotten to and the feedback that we've received to date is I believe it's an architectural masterpiece. And you can't just make an assumption just looking at one view on one angle where it just looks like a faded wall. So there's more to it than just looking at it from one angle.
Thank you very much, Vince. I'll just check if any of my councillor colleagues have questions. No? All right. Thank you very much for your submission, Vince.
Thank you.
And it's over to you, Billy. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Good evening, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor and councillors. I'm excited to be standing here tonight presenting this project. As you can see, it's a unique opportunity to contribute to a legacy site in South Bank. We first met with officers prior to acquisition of the site by PDG in July 24, and I'd like to say thanks to the City of Melbourne officers for their engagement with our group throughout the journey. As you can see from this render, the proposal seeks to retain the existing Queensbridge Hotel and demolish the rear. We also seek to reinterpret the building as a new hospitality venue. Above the retained building will be a hotel and 640 odd apartments. Importantly, the ground floor will include a new pedestrian link into Freshwater Place at the rear of the site, which you can see just there next to the heritage building. Next slide, please. We've always strived for planning compliance with this project, and the image on the right shows how we comfortably comply with the adjusted floor plate allowed under DDO 10 by increasing the setback to Queensbridge Street and at the rear to Freshwater Place. The ground plane is highly activated with a mix of laneway, retail, F&B and lobby spaces, while the podium is fully sleeved with active uses, ensuring compliance with DDO 1. The apartments have also been designed to be highly compliant with the apartment design guidelines. Next slide, please. We've had really extensive engagement on this project, possibly the most of any project in my career, and this includes meetings and consultations with the DTP planning, the OVGA, as was mentioned, DTP transport, which actually changed the left in, left out that was mentioned earlier, the City of Melbourne, clearly, ongoing discussions with Melbourne Water up to yesterday, and of course the local South Bank community. And the key point of this lengthy engagement is we've listened, and the design of the building and the ground plane has evolved directly as a result of all this engagement. Next slide, please. In terms of public benefit, we're currently sitting at 25:1 floor area ratio. So to achieve this uplift above 18:1, we're required to demonstrate a significant public benefit, just under $33 million. And so what PDG have proposed is a suite of public benefit, like a package, which includes the new laneway, the landscaped open space at the rear, the office space, an affordable housing contribution, which is currently in there, and a contribution to the public realm, namely Queensbridge Square upgrades. And to finish, we strongly believe this project would deliver an outstanding piece of design on a really underutilised site in South Bank. It's a genuine project demonstrated by the fact early works are literally about to start on site, and there's a display suite just up the road, and we're really excited to be part of this project and welcome Council's consideration and support. We've also got Simon next from Cox Architecture, who can probably speak more to the design, Rashida. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy. Were there any questions, councillors? No. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now we have Simon Hausiger from Cox.
Thank you, councillors. Simon Hausiger here to present 1 Queensbridge Street to you today. Next slide. As you all know, it's a strategic site, and as Vince has mentioned, there have been many attempts at developing this along the journey. So we are excited to be partnering with our client, PDG, who are committed to delivering what will be a landmark project for the City of Melbourne. Next slide. It's a project that honours heritage and place. This unique part of the Yarra River, as many of you will know, called the Falls. A basalt ridge where saltwater and freshwater ecosystems converge. A meeting place historically for the Eastern Kulin. And the Queensbridge Hotel on the right-hand side there, an important place in the evolution of the city. Next slide. The design response. A podium that breaks down in scale across the frontage, an eroded form referencing the geology of the riverbank. Stepping back to reveal the Queensbridge Hotel on the left-hand side in those diagrams. Finer grain and texture expressed through the podium facade that you'll see shortly in the renderings. And the sculptural tower form sitting behind, articulated as a series of flowing pleats, again referencing those natural flows. Next slide. So it's a slender silhouette when viewed from the city and from the north, and a form that we think will interact with light in quite a special way in amongst the skyline. Next slide. The ground plane. And so that extends the urban realm within the site, enhances that existing pedestrian network, completing the freshwater place precinct. With a new landscaped space, think linking the Power Street site behind, you can see on the right-hand side, and further contributing to the activation of the precinct, and especially with the adjoining properties, as Vince mentioned before. Next slide. The new through-site link, a fully accessible active laneway from Queensbridge Street and to the east, approaching from Freshwater Place. So the canopies used a unifying element to reinforce that public linkage. Next slide. The view from the Queensbridge Street Hotel. The podium form sitting behind. So the flowing pleated language of the tower starts to cascade down and transition into a finer grain language in the lower levels. More tactile materials, honest and highly articulated and textural. Next slide. As you've heard, the project will deliver over 600 apartments, 180 room hotel, 2,700 square metres of office space, and a vibrant food and beverage retail offering at the lower levels. And of course, the revitalised Queensbridge Hotel. Next slide. The floor plate's designed from the inside out, prioritising the resident experience, maximising access to light and views, which each of those pleats subtly orienting the view towards the north. Next slide. Quality residential amenity and generous landscape deck on the podium level, providing access to communal spaces, health, wellness and leisure. Next slide. And those social spaces within sitting midway up the tower. And thank you, MCC, DTP and the OVGA for your consultation through the process.
Thank you very much for that very well-timed submission, Simon. Do councillors have any questions of Simon? No? All right. Thank you. I am now going to ask for an alternate motion to be put up on the screen. Thank you. So the difference being the struck out text from the management motion in 9.1. I am going to move that motion and I'm looking for a seconder. Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'll now speak to this motion.
We just scroll down so that we can...
That is it.
Oh,
That's
it.
the
Oh,
entire...
sorry.
No, it is worth doing for those following along here in Town Hall and at home. So the difference between the motion put up by management is the text that is struck through at the end of 9.1. Right. I'll now speak to this motion. Can I begin by saying this is obviously a very significant application before us tonight at a very prominent site, 1 to 29 Queensbridge Street in Southbank. And to have an application of this scale is a huge vote of confidence in Melbourne. Can I begin by thanking our submitters, Vince, Simon, Billy, and also Tony Penner, who, although not here tonight, has provided a written submission on behalf of the Southbank Residents Association. The application before us tonight is a ministerial referral. The Minister is, of course, the responsible decision maker. DTP has, on behalf of the Minister, referred this application to the City of Melbourne. I wanted to start by talking about the history of this site, just briefly, if you'll indulge me. So the Queensbridge Hotel is one of Southbank's oldest surviving buildings, with origins dating back to the mid-19th century, when it served travellers and workers crossing the Yarra. Over time, it's become a well-known pub, later a nightlife venue, reflecting changes in Southbank. But over the past 15 years, it has been underutilised. For many, it has become symbolic of being a bit of an eyesore. And so it is very exciting to have before us an opportunity to bring this site back to life, to retain those key heritage features, but to see it reactivated as part of Southbank's renewal. The applicant is PDG Corporation, the owner is VG Property Investments, and the architect is Cox Architecture. The estimated cost of the development is $450 million. You've heard tonight that this application seeks partial demolition and construction of a multi-storey, 239-metre mixed-use building. The proposal will result in the partial demolition of the Queensbridge Hotel heritage building at 1 to 7 Queensbridge Street, the full demolition of the remaining buildings on the application site, which have already been approved under a separate permit, and restoration works to the retained heritage building, as well as the construction of a 70-storey mixed-use building for the use of dwellings, office, residential, hotel and retail premises. In particular, 637 apartments comprising of 192 one-bedroom apartments, 302 two-bedroom apartments, and I know this will be of interest to some councillors, 124 three-bedroom apartments, 14 four-bedroom apartments, 5 penthouse apartments, as well as 181 hotel rooms, 1,138 square metres of office space, and very excitingly on the ground floor, 2,271 square metres of retail space. The application also includes a through building link at ground floor connecting Queensbridge Street to Freshwater Place, which is a welcome addition. It also includes 518 car spaces and 271 bicycle spaces. This site is located in the Capital City Zone, Schedule 3. It's affected by Heritage Overlay Schedule 1 and 228, Design and Development Overlay Schedules 1 and 10, and the land is subject to an Inundation Overlay Schedule 3 and Parking Overlay Schedule 1. The key matters for consideration tonight, in my view, are the suitability of the proposed built form and the floor area uplift and proposed public benefits. Now, this proposal, according to our officers, should be supported. That is, we would not object to it, but subject to resolution of some key matters and the inclusion of the recommended conditions in the report at attachment 3. And I wanted to speak to those two key issues. Firstly, the public benefit. The applicant's public benefit attributes a total value of approximately $32.8 million to proposed public benefits, comprised of $10.6 million of publicly accessible open space and $7.4 million of public realm works. Now, as a point of comparison, it is worth considering that a previous approval on the subject site incorporated far more significant public realm contribution. That was almost a decade ago, and that required works to the value of $25 million. So that figure would obviously need to be indexed to today. But by way of comparison, that was a far more significant public benefit on the table. The public benefits before us tonight to support the public floor uplift, in our view, have not been satisfactorily resolved, and they do remain a threshold issue for permit approval. In particular, the proposed cash contribution for affordable housing is not supported. In our view, that should be redirected to Queensbridge Square, and the reliance on office as a strategic justification is not supported. We would seek that also be redirected towards a more significant, more meaningful realm upgrade for Queensbridge Square. We also note that the through block link must either be redesigned to comply with DD01 or have its value similarly redirected to a Queensbridge Square upgrade. Secondly, there are a number of conditions proposed by management which I do support, but I wanted to deal with the significant one, which is in relation to the proposed tower form and the need for further refinement of that. Now, this design, as you've seen and heard tonight, has been materially amended during the process. It does depart from an earlier scheme that had benefited from extensive review by DTP, by council officers, by the OVGA design review panel, and in its current form, the tower does appear as a very broad vertical element. In our view, tapering and articulation, particularly to the upper levels, would be required to achieve tower slenderness, visual separation, and the sort of skyline legibility that is sought by DD010. Permit conditions therefore do include a comprehensive facade strategy to the satisfaction of the responsible authority to address scale, bulk and material articulation. And ongoing review by OVGA may be required to support an improved built form outcome. Given the changes to tower massing and updated wind assessment, including wind tunnelling, we've also heard that by way of submission from Tony Penner, will be necessary to confirm acceptable pedestrian level amenity outcomes. I wanted to close by speaking briefly about heritage, which is also where I began, because this is a site of significant heritage value. This proposed development does respond very positively to the relevant provisions of the Melbourne Planning Scheme, with heritage matters having been successfully resolved through the application process, and I thank the applicant for working so closely with our team on that. The demolition of the Queensbridge Hotel is limited to non-original and altered fabric at the rear of the site, and in management's view and mine is appropriate. Pleasingly, the retention, restoration of the principal building elements will preserve the form to make sure that the historic function of the hotel will have a new life for a new Melbourne, which we are very excited to see. Can I close by thanking the applicant for what is undeniably one of the most significant proposals that will come before this committee, and also to our team, led by Evan Council, Nick McLennan, for their extensive and ongoing work on this application. In closing, I support this alternate motion and I commend it to my councillor colleagues. Over to you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, and thank you for your comprehensive assessment there of the project. I'm happy to speak in support of the motion before councillors this evening, and indeed this is one of the most significant new projects that the City of Melbourne will see this decade. It's also a major project that's happening in one of the most high-profile locations in Melbourne, right on the riverfront, at what's called Freshwater Place, literally where there used to be the river crossing prior to European settlement here, and it remains a very important gathering place for our city. This $450 million investment in a project of this scale is, I think, very welcome here at the City of Melbourne. We heard it described in submissions as the world's best mixed-use development in the world's best city. I might withhold my judgment till we see the finished project, but I've got to say there's a lot to like about this project, and I do think it'll make a very, very positive contribution to our city when it proceeds. In particular, I think the street activation is really great to see along Queensbridge Street. I think some other developments in South Bank have overlooked the importance of getting that street frontage, that street activation going. So you create busy footpaths full of activity, impermeable buildings, and you can see that with the design here, which is excellent. I also think the laneway linking Queensbridge Street through to I can call it the Crown entrance on the one street up, I think is excellent as well. In fact, it actually unlocks that entire block through the new laneway, linking up with other laneways. Again, that just makes South Bank a more pedestrian-friendly, more walkable suburb, which is so important given it is the most densely populated suburb in Australia. So that public laneway, I think, is going to be a real game changer in the precinct. In terms of the facade and the design, I think that the DLM has commented on that. I can hear from the submission this evening, it sounds like you've been around the block several times through various design review panels, and I must say that the pictures we saw in the subsequent presentations did show a good level of articulation there. But on a building this prominent, I hope that's something we can continue to work on, and as the conditions require, those conversations will continue. I do also strongly support management's recommendation that any floor area uplift must translate into a clear, tangible public benefit, and that in this case it should be secured through the upgrade and revitalisation of Queensbridge Square. I think Queensbridge Square has the potential to be the Federation Square of the South. Like, it really is a hugely important public space, which will be the major gathering area for the South Bank community, right on the riverfront there. And so it needs a major investment. and this Queensbridge Street project provides a vehicle for that work being undertaken. So I think many councillors here have been on the record about how we question office as a source of public benefit, notwithstanding that's what exists in the current planning scheme. And on the affordable housing front, I think we could have a debate about that, but right now we think the most pressing priority in South Bank is that upgrade to Queensbridge Square. And so we think that in supporting uplift here, we should lock in a consolidated investment that improves the public realm where the city needs it most, in Queensbridge Square. But putting that all together, very happy to support this motion, happy to support the officer's recommendation, and look forward to seeing this project proceed.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Are there any other speakers to the motion? Yes, Councillor Camillo.
A very brief one. It's about the 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. It's just use this opportunity for developers in there. I welcome that you guys bring 144 good-sized family apartments to the market. I think the Deputy Lord Mayor and Lord Mayor elaborate very well the other questions in here, but I just want to reframe that. If we want a cosmopolitan city, we need to be building more size apartments for families, not 1 and 2 bedroom. I'd like to see a better rating there, but at least I can see you guys at least building family size apartments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Camillo. Yes, Councillor Rouse.
Just a couple of questions, if I may. I forget who mentioned this in their presentation, so please forgive me, but someone did speak about open space at the rear of the building. Could I just seek some clarification as to what that is, where it's accessible from, and the plan for that as well? And then I'll seek a clarification from yourself and how the motion before us might impact or change that as well.
Thank you. So I think that's Simon who's going to address
P2.
that.
The open space is sitting towards the back of the site that links the Power Street site on the right-hand side of that urban design diagram. If you wanted to go back to it before, maybe slide 9, keep on going back. Keep going, so that one there. So you can see just at the back of the site, near the Freshwater Place enclave there, there's a red dashed line going across to the Power Street site, and just at the back of our site, it's on our site. There's a new interface, I guess, to that laneway.
And that would be accessible through the proposed laneway. Can I ask yourself, Deputy Lord Mayor, does the motion before us change anything in relation to that in terms of the quantum of the public benefit being allocated towards the area at the front of the building versus the area at the rear of the building?
Yes, so the proposed public benefit methodology prepared by Urbis, and I'm happy to be corrected, Billy, but my understanding is that there is $10.6 million attributable to publicly accessible open space and additionally $7.4 million for public realm works, and we would see a consolidation of the benefit currently attributable to office and affordable housing, for that to be consolidated and instead put into the revitalisation of Queensbridge Square, which would fall within an increased public realm work contribution. But it is beyond my capacity to do the calculation of what that uplift would look like, so I defer to you, Billy, as to what the quantification would be of that.
Yes, you are right, that will have no difference. So if the affordable housing contribution gets put towards Queensbridge Square upgrades, that will have no difference to that, the upgrading. So that works we're doing on site, including the laneway and the piece at the back. And there is I think there's another slide that highlights it as well, further up the page. Sorry, keep going. This one. So this one on the right-hand side, where those trees, that's indicative landscaping there. That will have. We're still going to deliver that, and that that will have no difference to that being delivered.
And so if the motion before us did pass, would that create a scenario where there'd be a decision made as to whether to increase the amount of funding put towards the uplift of the Queensbridge site versus the smaller site at the Rio?
No, I think the question is how much goes towards affordable housing versus how much is towards Queensbridge Square. This will be delivered regardless.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question. But there is a complex, I guess, calculation that's done in the background that comes to the public benefit, and we still need to work through that absolutely with the department.
Thank you.
Were there any other speakers to the motion? No? I think you can also take your seat, Billy. Thank you so much for your assistance. In that case, I will put the motion to the vote. Could all those in favour please raise your hands? That has passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And I now call on the Lord Mayor to resume the role of chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. We move on to agenda item 6.2, City Road Northern Undercroft Design Update. And we will request a presentation on this. I invite Luke Flanagan, who's our Director of City Design, to please make a brief presentation.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Good evening, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, councillors and members of the public. My name's Luke Flanagan and I will be, I'm the Director of City Design for the City of Melbourne, and I'll be providing a presentation on the City Road Undercroft Park and what is a significant opportunity to create open space for the community in South Bank. Can I have the next slide, please? So the Undercroft Park is a component of Action 2, the City Road Master Plan, which was endorsed by Council's FMC in 2016. Based on engagement with the community during the development of that master plan and post-development of the master plan, we've heard a strong desire from the community for spaces of active recreation within South Bank. So skate spaces, climbing and bouldering walls, sports courts, group fitness spaces and play spaces, along with opportunities for temporary art and activations within the area. This project provides an opportunity for multi-use areas for active recreation within a very densely populated area of South Bank. And located on the northern side of the intersection of City Road, as you can see on the plan of City Road and Queensbridge Square, the Undercroft is currently a disused taxi queuing area beneath the Kingsway overpass, and it's approximately 4,500 square metres of what could be open space for the community of South Bank. And the transition of this space to community use is supported by the South Bank Structure Plan from 2010, the City Road Master Plan from 2016, and a range of other council strategies and plans such as the Transport Strategy and Creative Strategy. Can I have the next slide, please? We've undertaken fairly significant consultation on this project as it's been developed, both with the background of the City Road Master Plan from 2016 when it was developed and endorsed, through stakeholder engagement when this project was in its early initiation stages through 2019 and 20, and then more recently in May to June 2024 when we engaged with the community to talk to them about their ambition for this space and what uses they thought we could accommodate and what they needed in their area. And what we've heard is a strong desire for that multi-use, multi-age spaces with opportunities for programming. Since the approval of this project, we've been able to further develop it, and we've done that through engagement with stakeholders, with the community and residents associations, as well as through subject matter expert consultancies and through focus groups such as the YMCA and skate and bouldering groups. We have taken it further beyond the May 2025 concept which was approved, and we're now in a position to be able to move forward with exhibiting this concept and moving into delivery within the 26-27 calendar years. Can I have the next slide, please? You can see on this slide, cities around the world are focusing on the way that they can cater to the needs of the population and community within these very densely populated areas with a lot of built form. You can see examples from Toronto, Shanghai, Geelong, Miami, spaces underneath infrastructure where we can provide sports courts, spaces of active recreation, bouldering walls, skate spaces and youth plazas, along with areas for more passive recreation and seating areas. What we've heard from the community in South Bank is there's a really strong desire for skate spaces, for bouldering walls, for basketball courts and netball courts, along with opportunities for pop-ups and installations and activations. Can I have the next slide, please? What you can see on this slide is the updated plan for the concept for the City Road Undercroft Park. You can see the design has been developed since the May 2025 concept, which featured multi-use courts and a skate space. Through securing the Thriving Suburbs program funding combined with City of Melbourne funding, we've been able to look at a more holistic redevelopment of the whole area of the Undercroft rather than more certain spaces in the previous concept. You can see we're looking at planting where it's possible with natural light, path areas through the Undercroft space, areas for teen-oriented play with mounds and swings and seating spaces, passive areas which are more quiet, combined with opportunities for seating spaces and low-level planting with trees, arbour structures, a roller rink and skate loop where young kids can learn how to skate and ride their scooters and ride bikes for young families in South Bank. Bouldering walls, 2 half courts, a netball court and a basketball court, combined with a number of seating spaces and then a concrete street-style skate park to the north of the Undercroft Park. Can I have the next slide, please? You can see through access and circulation and assessment of the design, we're looking at a lot of circulation integrated into the design, so movement into, through and out of the Undercroft Park. So it's important that people have a lot of ability to move through, into and then out of the space very safely. Can I have the next slide, please? Safety in the operation of these sort of spaces, in particular in Undercroft areas, is very important. We've been working with a specialist consultant on crime prevention through environmental design and auditing the design as it's been developed. We've also been working on impact assessments. We have been working with the South Bank Safety and Security Committee, the Residents Associations and Victoria Police and Residents 3006 as we've developed this project. We've also been working with a specialist security and lighting designer so we can make sure that this space is safe and able to be used by the community at all times of the day and night. Can I have the next slide, please? On this slide, you can see artist impressions of the proposed spaces, the skate space and plaza with active recreation areas, low seating and planted areas with clear sight lines through the Undercroft, 2 courts, a basketball court and a half netball court, and then bouldering walls and seating spaces. Importantly, as we've developed this concept design beyond the May 2025 version, we've been engaging with a whole range of focus groups. We've been working with the YMCA, with bouldering associations, with skate groups, with the residents associations and with the South Bank Safety and Security Committee so that we can ensure that while it is progress beyond the May 2025 version, it's very much aligned with the community want and desires for this space and aligned with the approved Future Melbourne Committee concept from May 2025. Can I have the next slide, please? So our next steps on this project are to complete the design and documentation, to move through securing of permits and approvals. We'll be working with the Department of Transport and Planning and Melbourne Water. We've been engaging with those authorities significantly and we'll look to secure those permits through 2026. Pending completion of the documentation of the project and securing those permits and obviously procurement and a report coming back to council, we'd look to commence construction in late 2026 and look at completion of the project in 2027. The recommendation that we put to council is that we note the updated design for the City Road Undercroft Park and we exhibit that for the community information ahead of then those final approvals and moving into delivery in late 2026. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Luke, for that very comprehensive presentation. I've got a couple of questions just to lead things off. If we could just go back to this slide on lighting. There it is. If you go through the sort of the detail of the report and the what's on this slide here, it talks about lighting and obviously it's a primary role of actually performing the function of lighting up spaces and then secondly of contributing towards safety in the area. which I should agree should be its absolute highest priorities. It's also the case that lighting can be used to celebrate or highlight architectural features in buildings. In some of the other undercrofts around Australia, I've seen excellent examples of lighting being used to celebrate the industrial dimensions of undercroft areas. In this case, we've got the red steel manufactured by BHP in a different era in this country. To my mind, it would be amazing to really use architectural lighting on the red steel to make it a real feature and talking point, if you like, about this precinct. Is that currently in the design, or is there scope to include that in the final design?
Thank you for the question, Lord Mayor. Yes, it's absolutely within the scope of the design. You can see the inspiration images on the right-hand side of this slide of lighting up the framework of the bridge and the overpass above the Undercroft Park. There's a simple diagram showing some of the intent of what we'll look to do with lighting being incorporated into that structure. That will, of course, be subject to coordination with DTP as they own and manage the structure itself. But we are working with a specialist lighting designer and an artist, and we do intend to look to creatively light the structure and highlight the fabric of the overpass over the top of the Undercroft Park.
That's brilliant, Luke. So we'll all carefully note those two photos there that are their inspiration on the centre and the right, and we'll look to see something similar there with the City Road Undercroft. The next thing I was going to ask about was just the greening through this precinct, which is not easy given the limited light because of the overpass. Could we just scroll forward 2 slides? Maybe I'm going to get this wrong. Sorry, go back. It was the slide that shows the sort of the area being used by people, because this helps to make the point. Actually, let's just stay on this slide. So in Sydney, and as well as in Brisbane, I have seen the poles that are used to hold up the motorways green through vines and irrigation installed around the base of the pole. Is there scope to green these pylons as part of this project, just to bring greenery into the area? I know that there are challenges with light, but it's also the case that with the right species selection, they will grow perfectly fine, even in a shaded area like this, particularly climbers on the poles, which then can completely green the pole and actually makes them look quite good rather than the sort of urban blight you see there as the concrete poles at the moment.
Thank you for the question, Lord Mayor. I think what we are considering with all of the planting design for the project is very much, as you can see within these areas, planting within some spaces within the Undercroft. Predominantly it's to the southern side where there's better solar access and we can ensure that plants will do well there. I think we're doing solar assessments of where we do get sunlight into the space. In terms of planting climbers to grow over the columns or structure surrounding the columns, I think it's something we could take away to investigate further. We are coordinating with the Department of Transport and Planning as they own and manage the structure. There's investigation requirements for how they assess any maintenance works which are needed to the actual pillars themselves and the overpass. So we can take away an action to investigate opportunities for greening of the columns. That will be subject to coordination and then approval with authorities who manage and own the actual structure itself.
Yeah. Just for the record, it is certainly the case in New South Wales that the concrete pylons are on New South Wales, I think it's called the RTA assets, and so they have not proven to be a barrier to that treatment being achieved in New South Wales. So I wish you all the best working with DTP, and pleased to hear that you're prepared to consider that as part of the final design. The final thing from me is just goes to the 2 half courts, one netball, one basketball. I do note that about 200 metres away at the Melbourne Square development, there is 2 full courts that are very, very popular. I'm looking at folks from South Bank here who are nodding. They're possibly the most well-used basketball courts in all of Melbourne. They are temporary basketball courts. OSK, who is the developer of Melbourne Square, have made it very clear that at some point in the next couple of years they're going to develop it in that location. At that point in time, we will be losing two of the most popular, well-used basketball courts anywhere in Melbourne. Are we confident that we will have a new location for basketball to be played at that point in time? Do we think that this location will be able to handle the excess of demand that might follow at that point in time? What's your view about having two half courts here and potentially expanding that at a future point in time?
Thank you for the question, Lord Mayor. I think the intention of this space is very much multi-use, multi-age diversity of activity within the Undercroft. So it is a conscious, deliberate move to provide two half-court spaces of basketball and netball rather than full-court spaces, as they do get potentially taken over by teams who are playing there for longer periods of time. When we provide three-quarter courts or half-court spaces, there's more of an opportunity for people to play in more of an ad hoc way with friends for shorter periods of time. So we avoid needing to look at things like booking systems to reserve the courts at certain times. The overall program arrangement of the Undercroft is focused on that diversity of use, so trying to cater for all those wants and needs of the community, from areas for kids to learn how to ride a bike, ride their scooters, areas for teens, combined with that more structured play of basketball and netball. So while I appreciate the perspective from community groups about wanting more larger active recreational areas like sports courts, I think within areas like the Undercroft, we're looking at multiple programs in areas rather than large structured sporting spaces. There is also a consideration that you can see within the background of this slide and the image of the basketball and netball courts, that the actual structure of the overpass does start to come down as you get more towards the city road end of the park. So there's clearance considerations about whether or not there is enough space to play basketball without a ball potentially hitting the structure above the space designed for it. So that's why we've taken that consideration of the multi-use and teen spaces towards the southern side of the Undercroft and the skate space to the north, with the basketball court and netball court in the centre where there's clearance for it.
All right, thank you, Luke. Any other questions for Luke on his presentation? Councillor Gladys Liu.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've got a few questions here. As you said, it's likely to be used by a lot of younger people getting there by bikes. So is there any thoughts about having somewhere that they can secure the bikes? So they, after playing basketball after an hour, they still come back and the bike is still there for them?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I think, yes, we can certainly look at the opportunity to accommodate bike racks and spaces for younger people to park bikes when they're visiting the Undercroft.
Excellent. Other thing is bouldering. Now, from the artist's impressions here, I can't really see any difference here in terms of the flooring. So any thoughts put into safety of people climbing up there?
Again, thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, so we look at a soft fall treatment underneath the bouldering wall. So if people are falling off them, although they're not very tall, they're falling onto a softer surface, potentially similar to what you see with the Rocks on Wheels installation on South Bank Boulevard, where it does look like bluestone, but it's actually soft fall tiles beneath the rock work. So we'd look to do something similar to that.
Perfect. The other thing is water fountains. I guess that is easy to just put a few there.
Thank you. I think if we can jump back to the plan, it may show locations of water fountains. If it doesn't clearly show it, I'll take it away as an action to ensure that we're looking at provision of water fountains within the park.
Excellent. The last one is any thoughts of having toilets there?
Thank you for the question. We have looked at the opportunity to accommodate a toilet. It is not included within this design. It's for a few reasons. One is consideration of the land subject to inundation and flooding overlays for this space and how we would actually accommodate a toilet there, which would be quite challenging. The second is also about provision of services and connection, combined with when we do provide toilets within these spaces, it is indicating that people are staying there for much longer periods of time. And we typically tend to do that within municipal open spaces, whereas this doesn't fit that category. So we haven't included a toilet within the design of the park at this stage. And the recommendation from the design team and from open space is that we wouldn't include one within the Undercroft.
Would you have any idea the closest public toilet around?
I think the closest toilet is across in the Boyd Community Hub, just over City Road. And I can't off the top of my head recall the opening hours of it, but that is the closest publicly accessible toilet.
Perfect.
Thanks, Councillor Luke. Councillor Andrew Rouse.
Thanks very much. In terms of maximising amenity, what options might be available in terms of the configuration of different sports that could be used on the playing area? And my mind immediately goes to pickleball, which has just exploded across Melbourne, or the outdoor table tennis tables, which of course featured in the North Melbourne micro park that have proven to be very popular with locals there as well.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I think what we've done is look at the feedback that we've received from the community in order to define the actual program and the use of the spaces. While we haven't heard specifically that pickleball is something that this local community want to see within this space, we've heard more that it's basketball, netball, skate spaces, and then youth-oriented activities. It's a question that I can take away on notice and provide a response back about whether or not we have heard anything about pickleball. What we are also mindful of is the degree to which we cross-program these spaces with numerous areas of line marking to accommodate different activities. And we've probably heard the strongest sentiment that people want basketball and netball within this space, including from the focus groups that we've engaged with. So we've used that to determine the way we've developed the functional layout for those half-court spaces. So we haven't looked to include pickleball and table tennis right now, but I can take that away as a question on notice and provide a response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rouse. Thank you, Luke. Any other questions? No, in that case, thank you, Luke, for the presentation. Thank you for the many hours of work that have gone into the design of the City Road Undercroft. All right, I'm going to now request that a motion please be put up on the screen. If we could just scroll. No, I think you had it. Yeah. All right, I'm going to move that motion. I'm looking for a second to thank you, Councillor Camillo. For those who have been attending these meetings for as many years as I have, you'll know that this is something we've been talking about for a very long time, and indeed I feel like I've been championing this for many years. And so it is absolutely fantastic to now find ourselves at this stage where we can really see the final designs and see what is going to be an incredible bit of urban design, an incredible new public asset for South Bank coming to life. I truly think this is going to be a project which the design files around the world will come to see. You know, I think of the Bentway in Toronto, which is an incredible bit of urban design. I think of the West Bund in Shanghai, how that's so popular in that city. And I think we're going to see something similar with the City Road Undercroft here in Melbourne. Livable cities are cities where public space works hard and even the in-between places are safe, welcoming and worth spending time in. This project is the best example, is a brilliant example of what cities can do when they get smart and think about how they turn a neglected Undercroft beneath a major city overpass into a vibrant, accessible and sustainable urban open space for a community that desperately needs it. These are indeed untapped city assets, and if we can pull it off here with City Road Undercroft, there are many further kilometres of Undercroft which we can work on as part of Stage 2, Stage 3 and beyond. That's our ambition, and I think the design before us lives up to that. I want to thank the team for the many hours of consultation and thinking that has gone into it, to Rick Kwasek, to Luke, our design team, and our infrastructure team. Thank you so much. The sort of young or youth-orientated play space, a roller skating rink, the bouldering walls, the 2 half courts for basketball and netball, the street-style skate park and plaza, plus quiet zone seating and expanded low-level planting, I think are all absolutely terrific. I do know that the St Kilda public roller rink is one of the most popular, iconic spaces in St Kilda. Well, now we're going to have something better here in the city of Melbourne, and I couldn't be more pleased about that. I do think the roller rink will become an iconic gathering place for Melburnians. I also welcome the greenery that we've seen in this project as well. Through the questions tonight, we're trying to push you even harder to see if you can find even more opportunities for greenery in this project, in particular the pylons, but I'm sure you can identify other opportunities for walls and things that could be green through proper green infrastructure. Finally, I think the lighting looks excellent as well. I do want to ensure that we light this structure up, particularly those incredible red steel girders, so that they absolutely pop and become a draw card that people come to South Bank to visit in the evenings because it just looks so cool. And so I think with those additional points of emphasis around the design, I think we're going to have something which is really amazing. I do want to thank again the Australian government, and in particular the MP for McNamara, Josh Burns, who's been a real champion for this project, not just in voice but in money, with the more than $4 million that has been contributed from the Commonwealth through the Thriving Suburbs program, and look forward to us working closely with relevant authorities, including the Department of Transport and Planning and Melbourne Water, so that we can see this project proceed through a successful tender for construction and get cracking and get it delivered. Thanks again to the teams and everyone involved. Over to you, Councillor Camillo.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm going to try to be very brief. I think you raised many of the points in here. So first of all, I would like to thank the officers. And as the Portfolio Deputy for Infrastructure, I'm very pleased to second this motion before us this evening. This project represents a significant step in delivering Action 2 of the City Road Master Plan and will transform an very underutilized space beneath Kingsway overpass into a vibrant, inclusive, and the most important, safe and activate destination for residents, workers, and visitors. Importantly, this proposal has been shaped by community consultation, ensuring the developed design reflects what the community wants and needs. However, this project also demonstrates how undercroft space can be reimagined to improve connectivity, enhance safety again, and deliver a high quality of open space. Very welcome the exhibition of the update design and look forward to seeing the project deliver in the future and looking for the opening in maybe in the middle to the end of 2027. I'll make sure I will be there. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you for the reminder to the project team of the deadlines on this one. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to this item? No, in that case, I'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you, Councillor Guest, for raising it there remotely, and I'm going to declare that carried unanimously. All right, we move on to our next agenda item, 6.3, which is Experience Melbourne 2028, the 6-month progress report, FY 25-26. Would councillors like a presentation in relation to this item? No? Okay. All right, in that case, I will call on Chris Thrum, who requested the opportunity to address the committee in relation to this matter. Great to see you at Town Hall this evening, Chris.
the video is going to run first before I start speaking, Lord Mayor.
Okay.
Who's got the video?
So you've got a...
Oh, Cal, let it rip. Thanks, Cal. Thank you, Lord Mayor, councillors, men and women of Melbourne, and viewers at home. We're looking at agenda item 6.3, Experience Melbourne 2028 6-month progress report. First off, we're on Wurundjeri country, so respect to elders past and present. Melbourne Town Hall does sit on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. And the music that you just heard then was by Cam Butler, the good Melbourne guitarist. Cam will be performing in Melbourne Town Hall in May with a grand organ and with an orchestra. And so the music community is very thankful and grateful to the City of Melbourne for the support that you've given to Cam and to musicians over the course of years with the grand organ and the programs that you've got there. And I want to thank 2 Miles for the work that he's done in that area as well. He's done a lot of tremendous work. I think it's important to, in regards to promoting Melbourne and Experience Melbourne, you want to promote the music industry. Experience Melbourne is about showcasing Melbourne's strengths, and part of Melbourne's strength was the Melbourne Music Week. Melbourne Music Week really supported the local music venues. It really helped enhance the music industry. Music is the beating heart of the City of Melbourne. So it's important to recognise that international visitors recognise that music is a very attractive component of Melbourne. Melbourne Music Week strengthened the local music venues and the local music industry. The locals and visitors travelled from interstate for Melbourne Music Week. So I think it's important that, apart from everything else, to help enhance Melbourne's experience, Melbourne for international and interstate visitors, we should promote the music industry and bring back Melbourne Music Week.
All right, thank you for that submission. Chris, you have been a long-time supporter of Melbourne Music Week. It's very well noted here at Town Hall. Thank you. All right, I'm now going to request that a motion be put up on the screen, and I'm looking for a councillor to move that motion. Thank you, Councillor Mark Scott. Looking for a councillor to second it. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Back to you, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As Portfolio Head for Tourism and Events, it is my pleasure to move that Council does note the progress and achievements to date under the Experience Melbourne 2028 implementation plan and the initiatives still to come for the remainder of this financial year. EM28 is our long-term roadmap for the visitor economy. It was developed with deep industry input and unanimously endorsed by this council. And importantly, it is working. There is real momentum and we're delivering across all themes. We're seeing that in the numbers. And I'll just share with you some real highlights. Victoria's visitor economy is now worth $46 and a bit billion. Melbourne remains the #1 destination for overnight interstate leisure travellers, with 3.5 million visitors spending around $6 billion. Our hotels are breaking records, with 12.1 million room nights sold in 2025 and our international gateway through Melbourne Airport continues to surge and achieve record numbers. But what matters just as much as the numbers is the quality of the experience that we are delivering and the way we're working together as a city. In the first half of this year, we've strengthened industry capability through programs like designing accessible experiences and sustainability initiatives that give businesses practical tools to lift their offer. We've also continued to deliver a strong calendar of city events, pretty much the best in the world in my view, bringing Melbourne to life and reinforcing our reputation as a global cultural capital. And you can only reflect on the last month and how vibrant the city has been during Melbourne's International Comedy Festival, the biggest comedy festival in the world. We've invested in frontline visitor servicing, ensuring that from the moment someone arrives, their experience of Melbourne is informed, it's welcoming and consistent. And I do a shout out to our amazing visitor services team that make people feel very welcome in this city. Importantly, we've deepened collaboration through the Visitor Economy Working Group, embedding a true Team Melbourne approach across council and industry. Looking ahead, we're building on that momentum. I'm very excited about the Melbourne Experience Summit, which will bring the industry together to shape the next phase of our visitor economy. Even more delighting is the new culinary framework, which will sharpen one of Melbourne's greatest strengths: our food, our dining, our cafes, our coffee, positioning us even more strongly on the global stage. And of course, finally, the India Host Program will ensure we are ready to welcome one of the fastest growing visitor markets with cultural understanding and world-class service to that community. Lord Mayor, this is what EM28 is about: long-term coordinated action that strengthens our economy, supports our businesses, and enhances Melbourne's position as one of the world's most compelling cities to visit. It's about building on those things which make Melbourne uniquely Melbourne. I commend the work to date from Jim and the team at Experience Melbourne and the direction ahead, and I have great pleasure to move this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Scott. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you for those very comprehensive remarks, Councillor Scott. I would echo all of them, and I'd also want to thank the team for their work in the creation of EM28 at a time that very few municipalities were doing that work on experience management. They were certainly leaders, and it is very exciting to see them report back on how the actual implementation of that work is proceeding. So I thank them for that accountability, and we look forward to the delivery of these further stages of work.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Any other further comments from councillors? Councillor Gladys Liu.
Yes, I may share my experience when I was out here in the city. I was so pleasantly surprised to see so many people. Not one night, not two nights, it's quite a number of nights. Not that I come out every night, but every time when I'm out here, I'm very excited to see so many people come to the city. Not only at night, it's also during the day. I remember I went to the Botanic Garden, and there were a lot of people early in the morning doing their morning runs there. So I think we are doing really well. Experience Melbourne, everyone is doing just that, and very proud to be part of City of Melbourne, providing all these fantastic opportunities for people. And talking about last month with the Comedy Festival, my family, everyone, without me knowing, they have been out here to the Comedy Festival watching shows, some of them multiple shows. So yeah, they also have contributed to the success of the city in the last 6 months too.
Thank you, Councillor Gladys Liu, living their best Melbourne lives. Great to hear. Any other councillors wish to speak to this item? No, in that case, we'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. I declare that carried unanimously. Well, that concludes reports from management. We move on to general business, of which there is none. Then we move on to urgent business. There is none of that either. So we move on to agenda item 9, public questions. A further 15 minutes has been set aside for public questions. I now invite questions from members of the public. Hello, please make your way to the lectern.
Put this down. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily. My question is, will this committee commit to conducting an internal investigation into the development committee process for the closure of Artet, the floating nightclub in the Docklands? I ask this specifically after Council's legal team went into court this morning and admitted liability for the closure, which is a complete reversal of Council's previous position and resulting in the waste of hundreds of thousands of ratepayer dollars on legal fees, possibly more depending on how much the damages will cost, and the destruction of a small family business. Again, my only question is whether or not an internal investigation into the conduct and processes will be undertaken.
All right, thank you for that question, Emily. That, of course, is a matter which is subject to a live proceeding, and so not in a position to make any comment on that as of this evening.
That's all right. My question was really more to probably the head of the development committee itself, as opposed to a general sort of question. It's more of a development committee question around the internal processes, if there's planning to be an inquiry.
Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of everyone at Council when I make that remark.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Emily. All right, are there any other questions from the members of the public? Sure, come on up.
My name's Callum. I'll try to make this a question. Just on the Queensbridge.
It is called public questions.
Yes.
If it's not a question, it can't be asked, Callum.
Would Council consider trying to get in the Queensbridge redevelopment similar to what's on Swanson Street with the climbing inside, the hard rock? And if you're doing a redevelopment of that precinct, you definitely get more people down there if you had the hard rock, like a similar thing. And if you can start from the bottom.
Are you referring to the bouldering wall, which will be part of the City Road Undercroft redevelopment?
No, I was talking about the redevelopment on 1 Queensbridge, if you similar to what's on Swanson Street with their hard rock,
Right.
Franklin Street, Swanson Street.
All right. Well, look, thank you for leaving that idea with us. The project that was before us this evening was a private project, but we can certainly make sure that that idea is passed on. All right. Thanks, Callum. Any other public questions? Yes, sir. Please make your way to the lectern.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Over the past week or so, there's been about 7...
Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, my name is Ash Blackwell from Carlton.
G'day, Ash. Welcome to Town Hall.
Thank you. There's been about 7 firebombings of various venues, mostly in the city of Melbourne, over the past week or so. I know that the Minister for Gaming and Liquor Regulation was briefed by industry about the rise of illicit alcohol starting to become an emerging organised crime problem in the state. He revealed that at Spring Street about 2 weeks ago. As council has some role in liquor regulation in the area, I'm just wondering if you've been briefed by industry, because I know there's some speculation that might have been to do with organised crime trying to force people to sell cheap illegal alcohol. That's kind of an emerging trend that may be relevant to the council and their role in liquor regulation. So I'm wondering if you've been briefed on that or if you're cooperating with Victoria Police or the state government in trying to tackle what might be an emerging serious crime problem in the city of Melbourne.
Councillor Camilla, did you wish to respond to that? And Rick, I might see if you wish to add to it.
Rick, if you want to go first, and then go on.
Thank you for the question. It's quite a sort of an intricate question and it relates to a number of issues. I would probably take the question on notice and get back to you with a response.
Sure, thank you.
And I'd like to welcome the question because I have been watching the past days and I'm very intrigued by that. So if I could ask even in public today if the council could, because I'm a head of portfolio safety of the city, if I could be brief, and I would like to meet with the police if it's necessary, and information could be shared with me, because I agree with you, it's a very serious issue. For the videos I saw in the past 2 or 3 days, it is something that we should be alarmed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Councillor Camilla. Any other public questions? No. All right then. In that case, we move on to agenda item 10, closure of the meeting. And so I wish to thank members of the public for their interest and attendance and declare this meeting closed at 7:01 p.m.